All right, so welcome to another installment of inspired content. This is a little bit of a different format than I used to do, where I do a review of a book. That's already up, and I'm splitting this off to a separate section for creative prompts inspired by the works. So it gets you a little bit of easier access to those without having to go through a 20-minute long video where half of it's what you're looking for. That's the idea anyway. We'll see if that's how I end up doing things. So I think really well. Come on, where's my file for this? So what I've got here are 6 creative prompts that you can use to write your own stories and design a new idea or a role-playing game or anything story-based, honestly. I'm probably going to use a few of these in some of my own works at some point. So without further ado, let's get right into them and make this a nice quick video and let you get started creating new things. And if you make anything, let me know, share in the comments or contact me on social media and let me know what you've created, and we'll take a look at it and share what we're all up to. All right, so getting started. This one's not as much of a story element as much as I'm sort of like, one of the other things I do a lot of is create some of my own things and share the process of making them. And I've really gotten into making tabletop games. So idea number 1 is a Neverland board game. I mean, we've got Candyland and those types of things. I don't see why there's no way we couldn't do a Candyland style story game on the island of Neverland as written in the book. And there's room for even expanding it a little bit further in the fact that the confines of Neverland are never really fully mappable, because there's a sense that, every kid's experience of Neverland is different, because maybe not everybody goes to the same Neverland. The way they describe Neverland in this book really seems to imply that this is it's as ephemeral as the imagination of a child can seem. It's not set by GPS coordinates and as logically rigidly structured as we expect our world to be, because it's built in the minds and the hearts of children. So it gives you room for a world map that changes and pieces move, the shape of it changes, so you can lay down tiles in a way that's unique in each different game that you play. All right, so not a story idea, but perhaps if you took that same idea, you end up with something like Jumanji, in which the game itself is the story of a land that's changed by those playing it. But in this case, it would be Neverland. It's a place that children escape to that's part fantasy and part real. All right, story idea 2. This one's a little interesting because one of the things I've really felt like is they really did a good job of describing Neverland as sort of like it exists because somewhere in the minds of children there's a little bit of some place in their dreams, in that place between dreams and awake, that exists. But how do pirates get there? The pirates, at least from the sense of the story I got, are not figments of this imaginary land. And neither are the redskins that they encounter there either. So it's like, how do people get there? And the question I also had in mind was like, we're used to thinking of Neverland as a place where kids never grow up. That's not ever specifically stated. And it is sort of implied that many of the Lost Boys do age. Peter Pan doesn't. So I got to wondering if perhaps some of those pirates or some of the Redskins or some of the other characters around them are what happened to the Lost Boys when they outgrow being Lost Boys. So is there a place where, if you travel to the dream realm or you travel to the land of imagination and you live there, what happens to people who grow up in that space? Because our dream realms as we grow older are not the same dream realms we had as children. So I wonder if some of the elements of danger and uh, adventure are derived from children who lived in the realm of dreams but grew up, and those grown-ups acting as grown-ups in a realm of children's dreams have a altered role in that story realm. So that's idea number 2. Number 3 is a little weird because somewhere in the story we start with a concept of the kids having a nanny. Like every kid clearly has a nanny these days. But back in the day, that's something that everybody expected certain families to have access to, is a nanny to take care of the children and take them to school and whatnot. In this case, the Darling family's nanny was a dog, but they treat it like a full-blown character, only occasionally suggesting that this character's dog nature was not human, and they're only a few segments, and they're not even like crucial enough that you couldn't say there was a human nanny treated any different. So, I mean, if you wrote a story where the character were children in the Victorian era, and they had a nanny that was largely frowned upon because she was a Romany, a gypsy, then no part of the character of the nanny dog would have been any different, because they treat that character as a human being. And I feel like, for me, the story element for this piece is more about treating a dog like it's another human member of a human household. And I kind of want to see a story of Victorian England where dogs and other pets are humanoid family members or people of the household. I think that would be an amazingly fun and interesting story element. So I don't even need Neverland in that case. I just like the idea of the nanny dog being I mean, you could have it talking, but you don't even need that. Like, they may have their own language, and their employer or whatnot knows how to communicate with them. It's just like, I feel like there's a story there that'd be fun to tell. All right, number 4. This was sort of inspired by some of the aspects of, like I don't remember ever getting this sense of world building from this that I must have missed when I first encountered the stories of Peter Pan. Every baby gets an island in a sea of dreams. And so one of the things they talk about is Neverland is in the hearts of all children, and children affect the shape of Neverland. And they do a fair job of elaborating on that enough without making it the focus of the story. But I feel like there's room for a story similar to this, where every child gets an island in the sea of dreams when they're born. It's just, when you come into being, your own island comes into being. And the island grows as you get more adventurous and imaginative as a child. But then when you hit a certain point, it sinks like Atlantis. when we grow up. But what if you get the chance to go live on your own dreamland island? And when you're in dreams, the mind of a child never dreams of necessary, well, I won't say never, but usually doesn't imagine themselves like they're going to be when they grow up. Most children imagine themselves eternally as children. Adulthood seems infinitely far away. So imagine that you get the chance to live on your island, and if you live on your dream island, the island doesn't grow up any more than you do. And then from that perspective, from that mindset, as your mind expands to adventure and explore your dreams, the boundaries of your island grow and move. But what if one day your imaginary adventure island, you're traveling your island exploring, and you encounter another child on their island exploring? Your two islands merge. Is that where something like a Neverland emerges? Is through the merging of multiple islands, of multiple children's dream realms coming together and forming a giant amalgam of the dreams of children and the people and the children who are living in their dreams. But at the same time, neighboring islands of other people and other friends who eventually grow up and move on, their islands sink and disappear. And so, is there room for a story of a dream realm islands, of a character who lives on their dream island and merges and meets with others like himself or herself, only to see fewer and fewer of them remaining as time passes? And so they get to watch as mysteriously people are disappearing, and then learn that they've gone on to lives outside of the realm of dream. It seems sort of dark, and not murderous dark, but just loss of childhood kind of dark. But I think it'd be an interesting exploration of that loss of childhood type of story. All right. And number 5. This one I thought was kind of interesting. This is based off of one of the things we encounter in the story of all the inhabitants of Neverland, where you have characters like the werewolves, or not werewolves, the mermaids, the pirates, the redskins, and that's only in the area of the island that we explore. We don't see some of the other areas. So I got to wondering, like, what if maybe there is no death on Neverland? Nobody dies. They just get converted. Sort of like when a werewolf bites a human, that human can be converted to a werewolf, and a vampire bites a human, and they can become a vampire. And then there used to be a joke that if you had a vampire fighting a werewolf and they bit each other, would they continually forever keep fighting, just switching sides every time they bit each other? And so it's like a Mobius strip of forever switching sides. I wonder if there's some aspect of that, because in the story, there's an element of the Lost Boys were fighting the Redskins, and it's pointing to the fact that there doesn't seem to be any logical progression of rules by which people are navigating in these kind of conflicts, because some of the Lost Boys, I think Peter Pan and then a few others of the Lost Boys, decide that day that they're going to fight on the side of the Redskins against the Lost Boys, and gradually more and more of them become Redskins, and the Redskins decide they're going to switch sides and become Lost Boys, and before you know it, the Lost Boys are the Redskins and the Redskins are the Lost Boys, and it doesn't matter who's on whose side. They're just there for the adventure of fighting each other. And so I feel like taking a story like that, where, you know, you can whatever side you're on is dependent on whatever side injured you last or converted you last in some way. I got the feeling like, okay, so having characters that can become mermen and mermaids, and having characters that can become pirates, and having characters that can become redskins or werewolves or vampires or fairies or whatever's out there. And wherever you adventure in those realms is dictated by the last conflict you had and whoever won that one. I think that would be a fun story, and I may play with that one a little bit. I like that one enough that I'll probably play with it. And then idea number 6. This is based off of the idea that you have Wendy Darling, who's sort of becomes the surrogate mother figure for the Lost Boys, partly because she enjoys playing a motherly character to them. But as you get towards the end of the story, what you end up having is she comes back to the realm of normal folk, and Peter forgets about her for a few years, comes back and brings her back for a little while to Neverland, and it happens like once or twice, but then she's too old, and then he forgets about her for decades. And then she has a daughter, and he comes back for her and thinks the daughter is her, and there are visits for that daughter to Neverland to take care of him like a surrogate mother. And I got the feeling like, is there a story to be told in a line of young women charged with going to a mythical place to take care of a character who's like a force of nature, a mythical being of some kind, a Pan or a what is it? Who is it? The Robin Goodfellow kind of character from fairy mythology. And this young girl is part of a lineage of people that have somehow become entangled with that. But here's the thing. They're an immortal creature that is tended by this family line. But if this young girl either doesn't want to or can't have children to carry on the tradition, then that story of, choosing not to be a link in a chain, but be the end of that chain, or what it means for our relationship to mythology to seek an end to that lineage of tending to it. And I feel like there's a story to be told in that. And I'm not sure I'm the right one to do it. And I'm not sure I know where I'd go with it yet. But I think as a starting point, I like the idea. All right, so those are the ideas I was able to generate from this one. I don't know how long we ran here with this idea. Ooh, we're almost at 20 minutes. I still ran this really, really long. Sorry about that. I will cut it quick here. That's sort of what I'm thinking will probably be the style of how I do these from now on, is the story prompts in a separate video and the reviews in a separate video. So I don't get a 30 to 40 minute long thing for a book of Peter Pan. All right, so I will see you for the next video, which I believe is a movie review for Infinity War and Endgame. And then subsequent to that, creative ideas inspired by them. All right. See you for that. Take care. See you next time.